Hi everybody, Carissa here with Inky Fairy Designs, and today I am joining you with Butterfly Reflections Inc. As their guest designer for October. I'm really excited to join them. They carry so many of my favorite stamping supplies, including the greeting farm, which is what I'm using today. I pulled out Cuddly Thanks and Wood Friends, and I'm going to build a scene with two of the little critters and that tree trunk. And since I wanted the squirrel to sit on top of the tree trunk, I am stamping him first. And then I created a simple mask, just kind of cutting closely to the bottom of the squirrel since that's the only part that I needed to mask off. And I can stamp the tree trunk and the deer and create that scene, and you'll see when I pull off the mask for the squirrel, he is sitting right on top of that tree trunk. Pretty cool. I love doing that and masking to kind of combine stamps and create little scenes. So yeah, we're going to do some simple Copic coloring today, and I wanted to have the squirrel hold the little acorn that comes in that set, and there are matching dies with this set that you can purchase, and it makes cutting out all of the images in the stamp set really easy. And I love that they're open dies because you can see, you can stamp first and then cut it out. So I also pulled out those clouds from October Afternoon, and this helps me when I am going to kind of color some sky to give me a faint outline when I stamp them in a very light ink, and to help me create clouds because that's really not something I'm good at. So yeah, so I like having those stamps. So now we're going to color the deer, and I use some Copics, a Copic combination that you might not necessarily think go together. So Y28, E44, and E57 are the colors that I'm coloring my deer. And I'll be honest with you, I pulled them out and I started coloring and I thought it was a big mistake, but I kept coloring because that is my motto, to just keep coloring, and I really do like the way that it turned out. That Y28 is a yellow, but it has a brown undertone and it warms up the deer really nicely. I thought it just made, I don't know, it just added a really nice light highlight and warmed it up really nice. And so just doing some very simple coloring. I did do some tip to tip with the ear with the R02 and the Y28 just to make it blend a little bit better, because you know the inside of the ear of the animal kind of blends out, and I like that you know, blending. You can do tip to tip with Copics and get really neat blending techniques. And so coming in and I'm adding in a little bit more shadow because a lot of times when I'm coloring, I do a really light first layer, and then I'll come in and I'll look at it and I think that I need to bring in that mid-tone a little bit more, and then I'll come in and blend it out again with that lightest shade. And so that's what I did there. And then I'm going to take my darkest color here, E57, and I'm going to just add some really light flicks around the shadows and create some fur. So it's a really easy way to create some texture on your animals. It's just to take your darkest color and flick it into the coloring, and don't do any blending, just leave the flicks there and it'll create some nice fur texture for you. So I'm doing the same thing on the face of the deer, and I'm going to go ahead and start coloring the squirrel and do the exact same technique to create some fur. Now, I know it's so hard because I have to speed this up so much because coloring takes some time, and I really don't want to have 20-minute videos. One, I wouldn't be able to talk through a 20-minute video, and two, I just don't think you would want to sit through that. So, but yeah, I mean, you can kind of see how the color is laying down, and on the tail, I leave it really loose. I don't try to blend out all of those flicks. I will blend it, like I do a really light wash of that lightest color, just so that there aren't any white places, because the tail isn't super shiny. That's not what I was going for, but I wanted to leave all of those flicks there so that you could see that texture and, you know, create that furry look. So to tie in my two critters, I'm using the E81 and the E43 combination on both of them in different areas. I used it on the deer's face, but I'm using it on the body of the squirrel, but it ties them in together. So now I'm using I'm coloring in the acorn, and I have those markers as all of the markers listed on the screen for you. I love this grid paper because I think it makes it easier so you can write down the color combinations if you see something that you like. You can see how they kind of look next to each other and kind of see how they work together as I'm laying them down. And then I kind of try to point to them as I'm going so you can kind of see what color I'm using at what time. And so for this acorn, I'm just following the lines on the top of it and creating some depth and dimension as an acorn would have. It's kind of hard to color such a small little image once I've cut it out. I probably should have colored it before I cut it out, but I wasn't really thinking. You are watching some really no mojo coloring going on here. Is really forcing it for some reason, you know, just kind of in one of those moods. But once I got going, you just have to sit down and really start creating, and then all of that will start to flow. So even if you don't feel like it, sometimes all it takes is stamping, getting some markers out, and all of a sudden you're like, oh yes, this is what makes me happy. This is this is what I love to do, and it kind of gets your mind off of whatever was on your mind that steals your mojo, because I really do think that it's things that are on your mind that steal your mojo. Anyway, I love coloring wood texture. You can see I just add flicks of color, just lines really, and I don't blend them out. That's how you create wood texture, is you don't blend. You just kind of add all of your colors, your midtones, your lights, your darks, but you really don't want to like kind of go in and really blend it all out, because that leaving that texture is what gives you that illusion of wood grain. So after many attempts of trying to get a sentiment, I found a color that matched. I found a die that worked, and was able to get this card going. So I cut out some layers from this Lawn Fawn Sweater Weather collection from last year. Still have quite a bit of it left in my stash, so I thought I would pull it out. I'm in the fall mood, and I did cut out some layers from my favorite things, Die-namics blueprints. Love those dies. And now I'm going to pull my card together. So I did pop up the scene portion of the card on some dimensional tape and added that to the middle. And then, like I said, after many attempts of trying to figure out how I wanted to do the sentiment, I'm adding that. And I want to say I'm sorry I didn't show you how I colored the sky and the grass, because I was completely off frame. When I went to edit the video, I saw that, and it just wasn't worth adding it in. So I did pop up the acorn as well and added some Wink of Stella on it to give it some shimmer. And that's my card for today. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up and share this video with your crafty friends. Thanks for joining me on my kind of less than spectacular mojo day, and I'll see you next time.